Hi everybody. So what my goal here to sit here and chat with you about is to just give you like a really concise blanket overview of not just Pilates and Pilates specifically and how it builds its movements, but really most formal exercise in their own way. If you know these fundamental 5 or 6 bullet points, pretty much you can increase the efficiency and maximize every actual exercise or really just movement throughout your day as well. It's one of those, the more you learn, the more you realize just how simple the ideas are. And you can go through your entire life spending decades in the gym or with personal trainers, and we still have these moments of like, that's all that was. And that's kind of what I wanted to just lay out here for you. So even if you've been a client of mine or done Pilates forever, these just sometimes just a refresher of like, oh yeah, that's all that is. And you can take that with you on either one of these classes or any others. And I'm gonna have a subsequent class directly after this where we take these ideas that are always there, but I'll kind of draw attention to them a little bit more, okay? So as far as the ideas we're talking about here is that Pilates movements are based mainly or fundamentally on the shape that your back takes. And your spine itself really only has like a handful of them. So there's not that many to really think about. So the one you see a lot in mat classes are what we call spinal flexion. And that's any position where the back is forward spinal flexion, where we are curving. And now your vertebrae are basically have spaces between them that we know has different things like the discs in between. And we're trying not to collapse on top of those individual spaces. So I'm still in spinal flexion here, but I'm a little bit collapsed. If there was something between my vertebrae, I may have broken it. So what we're looking even in that forward flexion is that I'm curved, but I want to keep that little bit of space just so I don't crush what's in between. And that just keeps me more active. That's all, rather than just passively, if I made a sound effect there. So we see that forward flexion a lot. The other positions are, we can turn the back. Where can we turn the back from? Well, we can turn the back from all the places, from the neck, from the low back and hips. Most often in Pilates, we're referencing mainly the middle of your spine, your thoracic, because it rotates, well, the least, right? You can turn your neck a lot. You can turn your low back. This has the least amount of rotation, so it's usually what we're after to try to help to wring out things that might get stiff. So we see that. Spinal extension, we're into that third back shape. I'll go over positions a little bit too, but I'm just picking a laying down one, is when we're in a lifted, arching, whatever words you want to use, position. We're now from head to tailbone. I've brought the spine the other way. Cohesively, we always are after trying to make it a nice long one that looks matching, rather than in my hyperextended back, I can, there's that sound effect again, kind of collapse into my low back or throw the neck up too high. So I'm dominating instead of looking for it to be cohesive and maybe a little bit more matched from top to bottom. Okay, so extending, forward flexing, twisting. We can go side to side, a favorite of mine. So something we call side bending. Simple mermaid type motion where we go up and over would be a spinal side bend, but so are side planks and the harder versions. Here we could again possibly collapse and do it a little bit too much on this side, where if I thought about the things in between my vertebrae on this side of my body, I may have crunched into them. So even though I'm looking to bend over this way, I want to try and keep a little bit of space here as I lift up and over. And then we can consider this side a little bit more well protected is all. And then again, I'm more active through this other side, okay? So we've side bent, we've forward flexed, we've rotated, and we've extended. There are positions we do where we do more than one of those, where we take them and maybe we'll go this way and twist. We mesh one or two of those positions together. But every movement you make, whether it's throughout your life or during any exercise modality you do, is built off of whatever position your spine is in. Even if you're a weightlifter, if you are picking up a weight, you're considering what shape you're in. A lot of things are done in what they'll refer to as your last spine shape, a non-one. They'll call it neutral spine or a flat back. You have to go a little bit gray area on even those words because no one's spine actually is flat or neutral. It has curves. What you could more think of is I'm not doing anything purposeful to arch it or to round it. I'm trying my darndest to just be whatever it feels like for me is like erect and long. So you'll visit those positions, especially the flatter ones, in things like a plank, in things like a standing deadlift. If you're a weightlifter, you're standing up and you're picking up a weight, you're in a flat back, you're just kind of sending your hips back and forth. But these back shapes are how you do everything. So if you're in the gym or you're in a class and you're not quite sure, what am I supposed to feel or what am I supposed to be doing, it always helps to go back to that one question, well, what is this position actually asking my back to do? And if you can answer it with flex forward, extend back, turn, bend to the side, or do nothing, if you could answer one of those 5, you have pretty much 80% of the exercise pretty well handled. And then you build on from there. Okay, so that's your first and most important thing to take with you throughout any exercise type is just knowing those 5 positions of your back and learning your own body, because all our backs are so different, and what it takes to move in and out of those different positions. Okay, so second I want to talk about is opposing sides of tightening and stretch, and what we would refer to as opposition. In terms of any muscle, and I'm just going to use a bicep curl, any movement you make, one side of your body contracts together, which means that the opposite side, the direct other side, has to stretch. It just has to, right? For something to bend, the other side has to elongate. So in a bicep curl type of sample, this would be my tightening side, which means my triceps and whatnot are elongating on the other side. So what we emphasize in Pilates that some others don't, when you try to think about like what's different between these things, although things are kind of meshing together these days, is that when we go to the open back up, we're not in a rush to get back to this. So we don't overemphasize the contracting part over top the letting go. Because when I'm letting go, I'm letting the other side contract. So I have a tricep exercise letting go of my bicep exercise. And that's literally true in every single thing that you do. So if you are to bring up the leg, you're on all fours quite often in things, right? If you are to bend at the knee, anytime you bend at the knee, the back part of your leg is like the bicep curl, so your hamstring is contracting, and that means that this side has to stretch. So when people say that their knees are often tight, and I'm just trying to give examples, but when your knees are often tight, it can mean that it's either hard for this side to contract for one reason or another, or it's hard for this side to stretch. To let me sit on my knees, this has to be really long. So anytime you're in any position that you're thinking, well, this is really, quote, hard, look to, well, what side of me is doing the pulling together, the contracting, and what is the other side, right? This to this, this to this. And that might answer your question. It isn't always, and it often isn't, the thing that's contracting, but it's the stretching side that gets in and like our obstacle. For Pilates, because of the spine that we talk about in so much of the motions, I'll go into a roll down. These become so many people's nemesis, especially because forward flexion is done so much. And you get the answer is always different for every person. Why can't I do these? Or why can't I do them like X? Well, if you're a person who does a roll down, and I'm just gonna try to demonstrate, the moment I go back, what side of me is contracting? Well, the dominant side to stretch my spine in forward flexion would be this side. This is the side that's contracting. It's pulling in. So then that means the exact opposite side would be my spine, right? So to do a roll up or a roll down, this is the working, burning, contracting side. We'll immediately ask, am I not strong enough to get up? Right? Everyone goes to strength. Well, maybe you are, but maybe this part of you is so unvisitedly tight that it doesn't know how to stretch in that direction. So there'll be spots where somebody goes ease, 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 and then they'll hit a really tight area, say like right here, just picking one, and that's where they drop the rest of the way. So it's not to say that this part of their stomach isn't strong enough, but maybe it's just that this part of the tissues and the connecting things in this part of their back aren't stretching and kneading enough for them to go ease the whole way down. And that's what we make an effort of working the body through in a Pilates workout, is to target not just the like unpracticed things that need more strength, but the things on the opposing side that might need more stretch. So there's so many ways to describe what Pilates is, and you'll hear like Pilates is just stretching. Well, it's not wrong. It is. On one side of the body, it's stretching. On the flip side of the body, it's a crap load of work. So you get both, but that is not isolated to Pilates. Like I said, you're lifting a weight, no matter what it is. Think of, when I'm doing this quote exercise, what is hardest for me? Is it like actually the thing that I'm contracting, or is it the letting go side? And that could answer some of your questions in those exercises. As far as opposition, we build every exercise on opposition. So thinking about that two-sided, one thing is contracting, the other side stretching, it's not technically just one, right? Every exercise is a full body exercise. I'm going back to this because it's like the easiest demonstration. We addressed what the spine is doing, so that was point one. I know what shape I should be in. It is forward flexion throughout, right? Until I'm laying down, and then I'm flat. So that's my back shape. We've addressed what is stretching and what is what is contracting as far as my spine is concerned. So these are my contracting sides, these are my stretching sides. Well, what about my arms and my legs? They're involved in this. What are they doing? They're not doing nothing. So my legs are straight. In order to straighten my legs, I have to contract my quads, or all of the muscles for that matter, that are on the top of my leg. This is your contracting side, which is why you'll often see people either shaking or you'll have space underneath your knee. Because if this is hard, this is just a difficult thing to keep your legs straight, it can be because this is hard on this side, or the stretching side is your hamstring side. So if the hamstrings are tighter, then they'll want to have space. This is what these legs are doing, pressing into the floor. I'm pulling back away from them. By saying that, I gave you a two-way direction. I'm going this way, my legs are going that way. And as I keep pushing them out that way, they're helping me to go back with more intent. If I just let them relax and forgot about what I referenced as far as the legs, I don't have help. We want help. And that's what gets us to the end of an hour feeling like we've been fully worked, even if we haven't done that many positions, because everything was working somewhere. Your arms are reaching that way as well. Your chest is pulling back. So as you're moving through every exercise you do, just think of like, what's going one way? Something else has to be going the other way, even if just in sensation. So I have a pretend reach through my feet and through my hands. And this is what enables me to just get down kind of smooth. And then we come up the same way. It can look like a desperate attempt to get off the floor. And then we've lost everything. Your back didn't stretch. This really didn't do anything. You just pulled yourself up. And your arms and legs were just yanked. So instead, I want to think about, remember the space that we want through the vertebrae, right? The curved but not collapsed way. So as I push out through my feet and my fingers, let the head feel almost pulled up on. So it's called a roll up. Think of the up. So if my head is going up, the back of my legs are still trying to press down. Now that is really hard for me because my legs are really short. Proportion matters. Take that with you too. So I just broke down just one exercise, the roll up, but I wanted to magnify those beginning points of what's my back shape, where are the two-sided motions, the contracting and the stretching, and how is opposition, like finding lines of energy out through my hands, my feet, help me to do this action to get more out of it. Okay, so that's 3 things that you take with you everywhere in every motion you make. Not life. Nobody's walking down the street like that, but like formal exercise that you're doing to strengthen things on purpose, take those principles with you. 4, I'm gonna just say breathing. Breathing is outrageously important for all the reasons. This is meant to be concise and just like a 10-15 minute blah. Breathing is a science you can study for your entire life. Lots of people have different theories on how to do it, where to inhale, where to exhale, how long, nose, mouth. I could go on for an hour. What's important, everyone? You need to be able to breathe through every exercise you do. If you find yourself bracing, where's it going, right? Like tension. It builds into this intra-abdominal pressure, a downward bearing, unfavorable on your organs, unfavorable on getting through it. We just add an unnecessary amount of tightness to things that we do. You'll find more endurance if you breathe, whether it's your mouth or your nose. I'm just gonna say that. Just make sure that you can still breathe. Giving you a little pro tip, I've said this to some of my personal clients, I never learned more about my ability to really do movement than when I first got my teacher training and they told us, as you're practicing, speak. Sit in your room, you're practicing your exercises, talk. That probably seems ludicrous to anybody who's just a student. Why would I talk to myself when I exercise? Breath training. So if you are just by yourself or watching one of these videos and you want to count with me, say something out loud, you'll learn loads about your ability to do an exercise if you're able to talk through it. Think about any exercise teacher you've ever had and how impressive that is, because you teach your body how to be able to manage breath and still find the power from the body on down. It's actually a really cool technique, so take that with you. It's a grain of salt, okay? So then you have breath. And last and final, so those are my 4 things, right? Back shape, contracting, stretching sides, opposition, right? So your lines of energy, and I'll point them out through the exercises that we use in our workout. Breath, use it. It's a tool, it's not an annoyance. It's not meant to be one of these meditative things. If you're not like that, yeah, breathing. No, like you need to use it. You'll find yourself getting stuck and not able to progress if you aren't able to train your breath along with that. And then last and final, I wanted just to mention for 2 minutes, position to gravity. And I'm doing this with my hands because I just mean floor to taller, like say kneeling to standing up. What is harder and easier, or like modified, adjusted? It depends on what you're doing, but you play with the position that you do every shape of your back, every exercise of a weight lift, and it's going to completely change the experience on your body. So you don't actually have to be like me, all kooky crazy with every exercise variation to change it. You just change how far you are away from the floor. The easiest example to something like that can be like a push-up or a plank or like any of the all fours positions. If you're on all fours, this would be considered a flatter, more neutral back position, right? I'm trying to be straight. You're often moving an arm, you're moving a leg. You're seeing if you do those things without changing that straight back. The simple progression to being on all fours is you get a little higher. Gravity just got heavier because I lost my knees as a base, right? I just got higher up. So since my knees being off the floor made this heavier, it was a simple progression, and I changed how gravity feels on my back. It feels loads heavier, right? If you were to do something like a back extension, which is lots of people's nemesis, if you're kneeling, just to give one example, you could just have your feet pressed down and gently try to extend your spine from here. This allows you to be very much in control, because where is gravity right now? Well, it's on top of me, but I'm vertical. So this isn't a lot of pressure keeping me from extending, because I'm extending backwards, right? Gravity's not technically behind me, it's on top of me. So for me to back bend here and find an extension is still challenging, but most people can do some degree of it because gravity's here. It's not here, keeping them from moving their back this way. It's where we take it down most often, excuse me, onto your chest. Make sure I don't lay on my mic. Well, now that I've gone down here, gravity is directly on top of my body. It's heavy. I'm as flat and flush to the earth as I can get. So this is the heaviest gravity is going to be on me, attempting to go up into it. This is why this is most hard. So to try to extend my back up, I have like no base of support. So this would be the absolute hardest place to be able to do an extension. I'm pushing directly up into the pressure above me. So I don't want to say there are no positions that the human body can't do. Everybody has limitations, maybe contraindications or pathologies that suggest that they shouldn't. But instead of focusing on those, focus on, oh man, laying down on the floor and doing that spinal extension like they're demonstrating is just, I'm not having it today. Sometimes we just have a day where it's just like not happening. Think of, well, it's really hard on the floor because it's like the heaviest this could be on me. Let me kneel. Let me stand. You could stand and just lean back a little bit. Walls are great for that. So every time you lessen how far away gravity is, if it's directly on you, you make that position more attainable. And that is true with all of the positions. So there is always, or almost always, some little piece, some variation of the thing that we're after that is going to get your body more used to those positions. And that is how you progress, get stronger, adjust. I don't want to use the word regress because it's not often the case. The exercise can get harder if you do it in a more appropriate way for you. Okay? Last thing I'll show, and it's not to give another bullet point because those are all of them, it's not what I'm leaving you with, is like a bridge position. Excuse me. It's another one that you see a lot, not just in Pilates, in yoga, in weightlifting, in hip thrusting. Everyone's on their back and they're lifting their butt. Like everyone everywhere is doing this. Why is it so important? Well, to go back to the stretching, contracting side. If I'm to lift my hips up off of the ground, I'm coming up. What feels like it's the working side? Most people can answer this question. It's somewhere along this region, right? So that means that's the contracting side. So what would be the stretching side is all up throughout here. We get to stretch open the entire pelvis because this is the side that is most contracting. Your spine starts to come and pull you down as this hollows back in. Right? Now, as far as how high you wind up going, it's the more you get to stretch this, the more you use your glutes, your back muscles, and these have a tendency, because we're just a very into our front body society, to be a little bit less practiced of a position. Not specifically laying down on your back, but like how the glutes, the back of your hips are able to push up against a force. Where's gravity on top of me right now? Heaviest, right? So if I'm down here, it is very heavy on top of me because it's directly above me. Which is why you'll see people even add weights to it to make it even heavier right in this region. Progressing a bridge is easy, so easy, because once you're able to go up and down, we need to start asking ourselves these questions. I got this, I can do this. How do I make it heavier? Gravity's not enough. Pretty much any body part you want. If you lose your arms, you lose one of those lines into the ground that got you here. You lost half. Well, so this has to be a little bit stronger. I lost my hands. If you took a foot away, I just lost another half of whatever got me up here. So now this side starts screaming, oh, I'm holding up like all of my body. So body weight exercise, because I'm not holding anything, is as simple as removing support that got you there just to make it heavier. If you were to do all of that, like I'm so easy. Bridges are like the easiest thing ever. I'm able to stay up, same form, all this is here. Well, what's gotta happen? Well, you could add motion, right? Motion of literally anything now means I have more things to control with this side and everything that got me up here. Oh, I got that, Kim. I'm so coordinated. I can move, I can be here. What else? What else you got? Well, now it's time to start dropping some weight on top of you. And you put things in your hands. You put things, props on your feet. But these are the ways we take a position and knock it up. So as we are doing them, and I design my classes to be layers, we bridge. We come down. We see if we can move your ankles. We come down. And what I'm looking for you to do while we do these things is to be like, okay, still got it. Can still be able to do this. Things like pinching, it might be uncomfortable, right? Uncomfortable, definitely. Pinching and hard, no. And then when we get to a point where, excuse me, maybe I lift a leg up and everything starts to fall apart. You're scrunched, you're uncomfortable, you can't find those presses of opposition, your breath starts to get tense. These are the things your body is being like, nope. Can you go back a step? Most essential to listen to. And again, not just with me or Pilates, but that's the way we listen to our body, because punishing it through something makes you get zero out of it. So it's not like you're being a hero to get through your workout falling all apart. Keep the back first and foremost. What is it doing? How should it be? Am I able to keep it like that? What's stretching? What is contracting? Do I have focus on both sides? Listen to your body and what it's telling you in all those positions. It tells you loads about your own body when you think, oh, wow, in all of these positions, the front of my thigh keeps my knees from being able to do things. You'll see it show up probably in multiple positions. That's how you learn about yourself through this modality. And it's one of its best benefits, being able to breathe. Ill-timed cough, right? Sorry, still recovering from a cold. Being able to breathe. So you don't have to do the talking thing, but if you start to brace and hold, that might be your body communicating, this might be a little bit too heavy on me. Right? Just like if you went to go pick up a 100-pound dumbbell and never did it before, you probably immediately hold your breath, tense, and go nowhere. It shows itself up on body weight exercise as well. We just have a tendency not to look at it. Okay? So it's always my goal for you to get the most out of every workout with me, and that doesn't mean doing everything the way I do it, as many times as I do it, and every variation I give you. I just try to give you the ideas. Here's a position. Let's try some things out. And then take that knowledge with you and use it as we go, okay? So if you have any questions about anything that I said here, or really anything at all, please feel free to contact me directly through the email, through the contact link. I always want my clients, whether I know you or I don't, to feel like you're being not just moved, but educated. The sooner little things and light bulbs go off in your own motion, that has to do with you and your body. But the sooner that happens, the better I think that you start to feel and own yourself. You feel like you're in your skin, like you're not just getting through an hour of exercise and then forgetting whatever happened. What did you really feel in those moments? What did you experience? What would your body like more of? What does it absolutely hate? Does it hate it because it can't do it? Or does it hate it for something that, like, a reason I should listen to? It's the most important relationship we're ever gonna have. We take our bodies with us to the end. And I think I would say probably 90% of my home clientele has been between the ages of 50 and 75. you start to see a really drastic difference between people who are able to know their bodies, maintain and address what isn't necessarily moving quite as freely as it did 10 years prior, or people who just stopped listening and went right downhill with what they cannot do. None of us want to be that person who can't pick up their leg to take a step forward, or who can't get up out of bed without 18 maneuvers. We want to be able to do the things. We want to tie our shoes. We want to be able to pick something up without hurting our backs, right? We want to be feeling prepared. And that's what I love the most about Pilates itself, but exercise in general, is it keeps my body feeling prepared for life. Okay, so the saying is, you don't do Pilates to get better at Pilates, you do it to get better at life, because it teaches you you. That is my hope to give anybody that I teach. So I hope that you were able to just take even like one or two little nuggets of information out of this. Maybe it's all bull you've heard before. It doesn't hurt to hear it again sometimes. Again, let me know if you have any questions. And I'm following this up with a mat class directly after this. No props, just to try to highlight the intensity of focusing on the fundamentals, but really focusing on like what it's saying about you. Okay? So have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.